second graders. So today we're going to be working on Eureka Module 5, Lesson 8. So let's go ahead and get started. Our objective today is we're going to relate manipulative representations to the addition algorithm. So what that means is we're going to be adding and we're going to be making some drawings, but we're also going to practice using that algorithm again. So let's go ahead and get started. Things to remember. Now let's not forget when we're finding the total of our answer, we're finding the sum, and the sum is the answer to an addition problem. And another thing that we can't forget is that 110 is equal to 10 ones, and we also can't forget that 10 tens is equal to 100. So what you'll need for today is, if you have that place value map, pull that out along with those place value chips. And if you don't have those, get a whiteboard and you can draw it out with us. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with our application problem. So our application problem says Susan has 37 pennies. MJ has 55 more pennies than Susan. Okay, so part A. Part A says, how many pennies does MJ have? Well, in order to figure this out, I'm going to go ahead and use a tape diagram. And I see that Susan has 37 pennies and MJ has, I don't know how many pennies. But to figure that out, I'm going to make my tape diagram look like this. And you can see that I see that part of what I need to solve is already there. I have two parts and I need to find the whole. So 37 is a part and then 55 is also a part. So if I add those numbers together, I will get the total number of pennies that MJ has. So the way I'm going to add this is I'm going to go ahead and use the arrow way. So I'm going to start with the 37 and I'm going to go ahead and just add 50 to that, because sometimes when we have a nice 50, it's easy to add. To start with 37 and add 50, well, if I have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then my ones stay the same. So that means I'll land at 87. Now I'm looking at the 5 and ooh, it's kind of hard to add 5 to that 7. So I'm going to break that 5 apart. And you can see that I broke it apart to be 3 and 2. So on my arrow way, I'm going to add 3. And the reason why I'm going to add 3 is because that 3 will take me to a benchmark number, a nice juicy 90. And then all I have to do is add that 2. And when I add that 2, that gives me 92. So MJ has 92 pennies. Okay, this is a two-part problem. So let's look at part B. How many of those pennies do they have all together? Well, we know that Susan has 37 pennies and MJ now has 92 pennies. So we've got to put them together and find that whole. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to start at 37 and I'm going to add 92. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a place value chart. So let's go ahead and make my first number, and that is 37, and my 92. So if I add my ones, I have 7 and 2. And that is 9. And then let's look at my tens. Ooh, I have 3 and I have a 9. It looks like I'm going to have to make a bundle. So I'm going to circle 10 of those. And there we go. I have a new 100 and that is 10 and 2. So I have 129. So they have 129 pennies all together. Okay, now that our brains are warmed up, let's go ahead and jump into that concept. So for our first problem in our concept today, we have what is 200 plus 300? Can you solve that in your head? Well, 200 plus 300 is equal to 500. Now, if you had some trouble solving that in your head, let me show you how I solved this problem in my head. I know that 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So that means that 200 plus 300 is equal to 500. Okay, let's try to solve another. What is 440 plus 200? I'll give you a second to solve that. Okay, 440 plus 200 is equal to 640. Now, how I solve that is, I know that 400 plus 200 is equal to 600, and then I just added 40 more. So that's how I got 640. Now, we solved 200 plus 300, and we said that's 500. And we added 440 plus 200, and that was equal to 640. So those are pretty easy problems to solve, right? They're nice big numbers, but we were able to add them kind of in our heads. But what about this problem right here? 287 plus 314. Is this an easy problem to solve? You know, I'm looking at it and in my head, it's a little tricky. And the reason why is because instead of having those juicy benchmark numbers that we've been working with, I have some ones and I have some tens. So I've got to be able to do something with those numbers to make it a little easier for me. So we're going to be working with the vertical algorithm, and then also we're going to be working with that place value chart. So that way, we can learn how to do this math. So let's go ahead and tackle our first problem. Here's our first problem, 303 plus 37. Well, you can see I have my place value chart, and I have my first number. I have 3 hundreds, 0 tens, and 3 ones. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put the second number there. I have 3 tens and 7 ones. Now let's go ahead and look at our numbers there. In my ones place, I have 3 ones plus 7 ones. So 3 plus 7 is equal to 10. Now remember, when we have a 10, we trade those 10 littles for a big. So let's go ahead and circle our 10 ones, and let's make a 10. So there's our new 10 right there. So what do I have now? Well, I have 0 ones. Now let's look at my tens. I have 4 tens now. Now remember, our first number on top had 0 tens, and then we had 3 tens, but then we made a new bundle of 10. So now I have 4 tens, and then how many hundreds do I have left? I have 3 hundreds. So our answer is 340. Now let's go ahead and look at how we write this problem in the vertical form in the algorithm. So remember, we want to line up our numbers nice and straight. My first number is 303, and my second number is 37. Now remember, when we line up our numbers, we want to make sure it's like a street. We want to make sure our numbers stay in their lane. We want to make sure that my ones stay in the ones lane, my tens stay in the tens, and my hundreds stay in the hundreds. So now that they're lined up nice and straight, let's go ahead and add. So we already added 3 plus 7, and we knew that was a 10. So remember, when we use the algorithm, we can't put 2 numbers in the ones. We've got to put the numbers in the right lane. So our 10 has got to go to the tens place. So remember, we put our 10 up high and our ones down low. We put our 10 on that equal sign, so that way we do not forget to add that number. So we put our 10 up high and our ones down low. And let's go ahead and look at our tens place. Now I have 0 tens plus 3 tens, and then 1 more, and that's equal to 4. And then I look at my hundreds, and that's equal to 340. So whichever way you choose to solve this problem is the right way, as long as you get the same answer. Okay, let's try another problem. I have 211 plus 95. So here's my place value map. Let's make that first number. 2 hundreds, 1 10, and 1 1. Now let's make our second number. 9 tens and 5 ones. Okay, let's go ahead and start off by putting these numbers right in the algorithm. So I have 211 plus 95, and you can see that my numbers are lined up nice and straight. My ones are with my ones, and my tens are with my tens. Now that I have my algorithm ready, let's go ahead and look at our ones place. So I have 1 1 on top, and then I have 5 ones on the bottom. So altogether, I have 6 ones. No need to bundle because I don't have 10. Let's see where we put that in our algorithm. We put it in our ones place. Now let's look at the tens. I have 1 10 plus 9 tens. When I have 1 10 plus 9 tens, that means that I need to bundle because 10 littles is equal to 1 big. So let's circle those and let's bundle them up and make that new 100. And I'm left with 0 tens. There's nothing left there. So what does that look like when I put it in the algorithm? Remember, I have 0 tens now, but that doesn't mean that they weren't there. I had a group of 10, so 10 littles made 1 big 100. So we've got to put our 10 up high and our ones down low because we had a new group, and we're going to put that number on the equal sign so we don't forget to add it. So now let's look at our hundreds. I started with 2, and then I put that new group below. So now I have 3 hundreds. So 211 plus 95 is equal to 306. Now, I love the algorithm and I love the place value mat, but let me show you another way. So I have the algorithm here, the same problem that we just worked on. So what if I write that problem like this, 211 plus 95? I wrote it horizontally now. So what if I break this number apart into chunks? Let's take that 200 and just say it's 200, and then my 10 is a 10, and my 1 is a 1. And let's do the same thing to the second number. 9 tens is 90, 5 ones is equal to 5. Now, let's put our hundreds together. Now, my second number doesn't have 100, it just has tens and ones. So since I only have 100, let's put that down, and I have 200. Now, let's put our tens together. I have 10 plus 90. What does that equal? That equals 100. Now, let's put our ones together. What's 1 plus 5? That is equal to 6. Now you're probably wondering, Mrs. V, what are you going to do with all these numbers? Well, I'm going to add them. So when I add them, I have 200 plus 100, that's 300, and then 6 more is equal to 306. Do you see how I got the same answer by just using expanded form and adding my numbers that way? If this is a way that you like, you can use this way too. Okay, so we have our last problem. 324 plus 156. So I have my place value chart here, and now let's go ahead and look at what the algorithm looks like. It looks just like this, 324 plus 156. So let's make our first number. 3 hundreds, 2 tens, and 4 ones. Now let's make our second number, 100, 5 tens, and 6 ones. Now let's focus on that ones place. I have 4 ones plus 6 ones, and that equals 10 ones. So when I have a group of 10, I've got to circle them, and I've got to make my 10 littles into a big. So here's my big. I have another 10. So how many ones do I have left? I have 0 ones left. Now remember, when I put this in the algorithm, I don't just put a 0 in my ones place. I made a 10. So put your tens up high and your ones down low. I put my 10 up high on that equal sign. Remember, it's not part of the answer. It's on the equal sign, so I remember to add it. And I added them all together, and then I was ready to go. So let's go ahead and look at our tens now. I had 2 tens plus 5 tens, but don't forget we added one more 10. So that is equal to 8 tens. I don't have 10, so I don't need to bundle. I just leave it just like that. And now let's look at our hundreds. I have 3 hundreds plus 1 more, and that's equal to 4 hundreds. So 324 plus 156 is equal to 480. And that's it for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you guys learned something new, especially with that other strategy where you break our number into expanded form and you add that way. We'll be using that a lot more in our next lesson, so we've got a lot to learn. Let's go ahead and see what your first 2 problems are in your problem set. Okay, so here's our problem set right here. It says solve the following problems using your place value chart, place value disk, and vertical form. Bundle a 10 or 100 when necessary. So if we look at problem A, it says 301 plus 49. So if you have Seesaw, you could use your Seesaw tools and you can solve the problem here for me, or you can go ahead and use your place value disk and your place value mat, and you find your way to solve this problem. There's lots of space for you there to work with. And our second problem here is 402 plus 48. Remember, if you do have a group of 10, go ahead and bundle it up. So make sure you work on these problems and take your time. Remember, when we are adding, it is not a race. It is a road trip, and we need to make sure that we take our time and we make sure that we know these strategies and figure it out. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.